Come to California, the land of paradise where
safety is our biggest concern. Emotional and mental health is a major priority.
law and order is paramount. We love America!
Love is everywhere.
And peace is found right here, every day.
We love California.
We love California.
We love California.
We'll see you here soon.
Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests. I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
So my favorite one, of course, is the one in the middle with California. Not for nothing because it's satire, but it's true. It's just the bottom line. Everything you saw in that spoof, okay, is all true about California. You could do whatever you want. If you're Antifa, you could attack cops. You could attack ICE. The guy defecating in the street. We've been saying that for what, 5 years now? No, they still haven't done anything about that. You and I would get arrested for doing this show if Gavin Newsom had his way. But you could poop in the street in California and not a problem whatsoever. Welcome, everyone, back to the front line with Joe and Joe. Going on Sunday this week. So happy Sunday to you, everyone. Happy Sunday to you, SNLO.
Absolutely, brother.
You know, and yeah, we're going to get into dictators and what America thinks of dictators because we got a clip from Glenn Greenwald that we're going to play later on in the show that really is, spot on. America doesn't care about dictators. America cares about who's going to do America's bidding. This is what E. Michael Jones calls all the time the American empire that started at the end of World War II, all right, with the founding of the CIA and all the shenanigans that have gone on since before you and I were even born. And they go on until this day. And we're going to get into a lot of tonight about why is that being allowed to continue when we were told this in 2016, when we were told this in 2020 and 2024 by Trump himself that he was going to do something about the deep state. Joe Rossinello, a real quick comment. I want, before we start talking about all of this, Elon Musk, the American Party, the Epstein, we're going to get into all of it tonight here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any real changes. Have you?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, some of the it's basically 40-yard line to 40-yard line. Executive orders, some culture war issues, but the thing that hasn't changed is corporatism. Clearly, corporatism was alive and well in the big beautiful bill. It's sad, to be truthful with you. In many clips that I've seen, people have said that's the end of MAGA. Trump pushed the envelope far, very far, further than probably any president in our lifetime, probably the furthest since Teddy Roosevelt. So 100 years. Clearly, he was somebody that the elites were concerned about because he could not be controlled. But when it came to the budget, maybe it was some realism. Maybe it was just the simple fact that he knew that there's no way that a budget was going to pass if he pushed the envelope, which should tell people not necessarily that Trump caved, in a sense he did, but what he did do is he basically said the system is broken and I can't fix that. That is what he said to me, or I'm not willing to take it that far. I elected him to take it that far.
Yeah.
Congress is a joke. It's owned by corporate interests. Any person who does not see that or think that is, frankly, you're not paying attention. There are plenty of clips. Tulsi Gabbard is somebody. You can listen to her. She'll tell you the day in the life of a congressman, how much time they give to donors. And Trump basically caved to that reality. And it's reality, and that's why I elected him. To be honest with you, I was kind of hoping he would blow that up. And frankly, and we're going to play a clip later on, Bannon says it, and he says it right. If we don't fix this now, it's not going to get fixed.
Not going to get fixed.
This is the only time. And I'm going, kind of cutting into some of the clips, but that's just a fact.
Well, let's start here, okay? The title of tonight's broadcast is Elon Musk's America Party. All right. So we'll pick it apart a little bit. But like I said, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. Normally Thursday nights, 9:00 Eastern time. I'm going to raise my hand. That's I'm at fault for that one. But we're going on every week, even if we have to move it to Sunday when we have a little bit of time. So help us out. Like, subscribe, share. We're growing on Facebook. We're growing on TikTok, from what I understand. We're letting it loose on YouTube and X, wherever you're watching this. Please help us out. And help us get out to a wider audience. So let's focus in the first segment, Joe. Let's talk about Uniparty. That's what, well, it does. We will be talking about what is the Uniparty. That's what you basically just described. So Elon Musk is proposing an America's Party. I think Joe and I are going to disagree with him on the route to go. Let's hear what DeSantis has to say first, because DeSantis has moved back into my win column, Joe. For a while, I think he moved out. He's moving back into my win column. So I'm going to listen to what he has to say.
I've been getting asked about this idea of this Elon Musk political party, and I just want to say, I think Elon Musk has been, one of the most innovative entrepreneurs, not just in our country's history, but probably in world history. And I think he's done a lot. I think he's got a lot more left in the tank, obviously. I appreciated his efforts in the 2024 election. And I've been a big supporter of the idea of the Doge because the federal government's spending way too much money. We've adopted that in Florida, even though we have a budget surplus and are paying down debt. And we have the second lowest spending per capita of all 50 states, but yet we're still doing it in Florida because you always want to do better. But when Elon was in at Doge, there were grants that had been done that we rejected in Florida. We would call Elon, they would cancel it immediately. We sent over almost $1 billion to where they were able to recover. There were DEI, there was stuff we're not doing. And so there was a lot that was done that was very, very positive. And so I think I've been a big fan of what he's done. The problem is when you do another party, especially if you're running on some of the issues that he talks about, that would end up, if he funds Senate candidates and House candidates in competitive races, that would likely end up meaning the Democrats would win all the competitive Senate and House races. And so, look, I'm a Republican. I don't want to see that happen. I think if you want to, get involved and hold accountable, we do have a problem in the Republican Party with these D.C. congressmen. They always run saying there's out of control spending and they're going to spend less, and they never do it. And so there's a gap between the campaign rhetoric and then the performance. Elon was doing Doge, and a lot of Congress didn't want anything to do with actually adopting the Doge cuts, just like they haven't wanted to adopt the Trump executive orders on immigration and all these other things, which I think you have to adopt in law if you want them to have staying power. So I think there is a lot of frustration with the gap between the rhetoric in their district and the performance once they get into D.C.
Okay, let's leave it there because he goes on for several minutes after that, but you get the meat of his argument. Now, my thing is this, Joe, he's absolutely right. We have to be pragmatic, but we want change, but we have to be pragmatic. You don't want to have a third party. because yes, the Democrats are going to benefit from a third party. I don't think that third party is going to siphon off enough of those people that we've spoken about so many times. They are just blindly loyal to that party. What we need to do is we need to make people understand that MAGA transcends Trump. Trump is not MAGA. He is not the be all and end all. He maybe kickstarted it. He maybe said a lot of things that got a lot of people thinking. He said a lot of things that got a lot of people motivated. Okay. But as Ron DeSantis just said, we're dealing with the Republican Party and rhinos and the corporate donors. And yes, a lot of other donors. Okay. Not just corporate. Okay. That are feeding them money. And they take that money. They tell us what we want to hear. They get in there, and then they say they're going to pass a big, beautiful bill. That, quite frankly, Joe, my life is not changing with the big, beautiful bill. It's not. It was supposed to. And this is what I mean about MAGA. Trump ran on we were going to possibly even get middle class tax elimination, maybe an abolishing of the IRS. That's where the tariffs came in. And then using other means to raise income, maybe a national sales tax. None of that is even in the conversation anymore. This big, beautiful bill is the same nonsense we've been dealing with our whole lives. Democrats want to spend X, or take last year's budget and spend however many percentage points more than that. And Republicans say, well, we'll spend less than the increase, but it's nonetheless still an increase. And we're still all in the same boat. We're not gaining anything, nothing. But the third party option, the America Party option, is not the option. I'm going to hand it over to you, Joe, but here's my point. We have to emphasize to people that you need to start looking beyond Donald Trump. Donald Trump has shown himself to be powerless against the swamp. And the reason why he's powerless against the swamp is because of the fact that we keep voting in our districts the people that are going to go there and just become swamp creatures. And with that, Joe, I'm handing it over to you because if that's the route we're going, nothing's changing.
Well, here's the deal. I think DeSantis is spot on. The third party will hurt, frankly, Republicans. No question about it. Not that I care about Republicans, but let's just put it this way. If, say, DeSantis was to run, he's not winning. Not winning. That's a fact. Let's look at some history. One of the worst presidents in the history of America was Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson won because Teddy Roosevelt came back to run in the Bull Moose Party against Taft, took votes away from Taft, got, I think, close to 20% of the vote, a similar type of situation like Ross Perot. And Woodrow Wilson was elected president, and he was arguably one of the worst presidents in the history of America. He was the president of Princeton. He was absolutely a far-left individual. And similar to Joe Biden, at the end of his presidency, many people said his wife was steering the wheel. So that's a historic benchmark that we should pay attention to.
And he was a stone cold racist.
Well, there you go. So let's go to solutions. And in that clip, it's a rather lengthy clip, and DeSantis goes into some solutions, and I would agree with the solution. The solution is this. When you talk about the bill, and this doesn't matter who's the president, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, we have to pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. I believe that requires 34 or 35 votes. States, rather. 34 or 35 states. As of right now, I believe there's 12 that are on board. We need to make that an amendment whereby it doesn't matter who the president is, you have to have a balanced budget. If you ask me, that is a paramount move that has to happen to improve the state of the country. That, as well as term limits. We have to get these guys in. We have to get these guys out. As far as getting rid of corporatism, the balanced budget will limit it. It's not going to eliminate it. I personally would like to see lobbies go. I think it's organized crime. I don't know how we ever allowed that in the first place, but we did. And that is why we have an oligarchy and not a republic. And that is a fact. That is who's calling the shots, the people who give the money, the donors. They take their money, they listen to them. Big pharma, big ag, big construction, military industrial complex, big banking. As far as listening to you, Not too much. And that's the disconnect. That's why. And frankly, I don't even think it matters who gets elected to Congress, because the way it's structured, it simply just doesn't work for the individual. And I think a lot of people are starting to see that more and more. I think a lot of people have become politically aware. But a good first step is, I believe, we have to make that amendment to the Constitution, a balanced budget amendment. I would like to see steps going in that direction, and I think that's much better than a better third party. However, here's another thought. Elon Musk may not have a chance of winning, but what he can do at the minimum is, say, if he has 20% of the vote, similar to what RFK did, he could use it as leverage to basically threaten the Republican candidate and say, listen, I have this block. You're not going to win unless you do what I say, because I control your destiny. That's at the minimum. He could be looking from that angle. He's not a dumb man. Or if he thinks he can get the 80%, which I don't think he can, okay. But at the minimum, he could do that, and that could be a strategy as well.
No, I understand. I would say I would take it one step further. Everything you said is spot on. Joe Rossinello here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, Way in the Breach. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. I would throw in just one more thing that we've said a million times on the show. The way you get rid of the lobbyists, the way you get rid of all of them, is you have to have public funding of elections. That's our tax money is going to go to pay for their elections. They get a reasonable amount of money to run an effective campaign, and then that's it. So when the NRA goes to a Republican and says, vote my way, they say, well, I can't take any money. When Eli Lilly goes to any one of the uniparty and says, make sure you keep all those pharmaceutical regulations in place. Don't change anything. Oh, by the way, here's $100,000 for your campaign. Say, I can't take it. Legally, I can't take it. That's the way you get the money out of it. Bernie Sanders is always saying that, but you think Bernie Sanders is going to do it? RFK told him right to his face, said, you take more money from pharmaceutical companies than anybody else, Senator Sanders. What are you talking about? He called out a congressman the other day. I forgot which one.
No, the workers give me money. The workers, not the company.
Right, the workers. No. You took money from the pharmaceutical industry, Bernie, okay? You take money just like everybody else takes money. If you really were a man of the people, you say, okay, you waste all this money every single year in every single budget. Take a portion of the savings. Hopefully they get some savings. They can if they would listen to Elon Musk, all right, and Doge. They get real savings. And let's just say it was, I don't know, I'm using an arbitrary number. Let's say it costs $50 billion. That's a lot of money to fund campaigns, publicly fund campaigns for Senate, House, and the president. That's it. That's all you get. Knock yourself out. Spend it all in one day. Spend it all over 100 days. I don't really care what you do. But you're going to be forced to live with that. And guess what and then you tell all the lobbyists, you got to tell them to kick rocks. Because IPAC, and Thomas Massey has pointed this out too, it's not just corporations, okay? It's cultural organizations, okay? Like IPAC, okay? They're a Jewish organization. Everybody knows now. It's all out there. It's all over the internet. The power that IPAC has, thanks to Tucker Carlson and Tom Massey and other people. There is no way that an organization that has as its primary interest the goals of a foreign nation, in this case Israel, can hold sway over the United States House of Senate and presidency. You can't do that. So they would, and again, a lot of organizations, okay, no matter who it is, you're not getting any more money from them. You get this amount, and that's it. If you do that, and you propose that, forget about all the minutia, Joe, and what's in the bills and everything else. If you had a balanced budget amendment, and I really think if there was a big push in this country, you could do that, because most states are red or purple. And you might be able to get there because even reasonable people say, who are Democrats, they turn around and say, we're spending too much money. If you had a balanced budget amendment and you turn around and have public funding of campaigns, you will shake the foundations of this country. You will shake the foundations of the deep state. Okay? And I think it would go a long way. What do you say?
I'll be honest, everything you said is spot on, except the reality of it happening, because that would give up power, and power is never given. It would take a crisis. It would take an absolute crisis. It would take a revolution, because powerful people are not going to hand over power to the people. It took a revolution for America to take place, and I'm not advocating for a revolution, although I want one. I'll say that publicly. I've had it. The system doesn't work for regular people anymore. But for what you laid it out very well, having publicly funded campaigns, no more basic lobbies, that would give the edge to the people. And the oligarchs are not going to let that happen. Look what they tried to do to Donald Trump, because he basically threatened the forever wars. That was one of the cotter pins of the American empire for decades. Do you know how much money contractors, lobbies, big corporations, construction, because after we destroy a country, we build it back up. The contracts that are given out. There are so much money to be made in a war, except for the regular person and except for the poor who fight in the war. So they're not just going to hand that over. It would take literally a catastrophe. And then also what it would take is people have to open their eyes and demand it. And there's not enough people who do. Frankly, Joe, it's sickening to me how people just accept the plate of crap, a hot turd that they just eat every single solitary year.
You want to see the biggest example of a hot turd that people are going to vote for? Go look at New York City.
Oh,
go look at New York City.
I want to comment on that too, because I think what we're going to see moving forward in this country, as more and more people lose faith in the institution, and I believe what this gentleman who's running is running on a group of people who have lost faith in an institution. You're going to see more radical candidates on both on the left and the right. Because what that is a reaction to people who say, I don't have hope. I can't pay my rent. I can't pay my food prices. I have no job like opportunities in front of me. So this is my only chance. And he's capitalizing. He's filling that void. But then you're going to get a reaction on the right. You may get a Mussolini. You may actually get a fascist. Donald Trump isn't a fascist. Donald Trump, in many respects, is a moderate. In many, many, many respects. I
take Mussolini over Bernie Sanders.
But my point is, I think you're going to start seeing in this country radical candidates who are basically appeasing a populace that no longer has faith in the institution. And I think that is why we have that gentleman in New York City.
Well, hey, listen, they're all geared up and ready to vote for him. You know, Eric Adams and Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo, as somebody recommended this week, say they better go behind closed doors and they better decide who they're going to throw it's only one of those guys, only one that's going to beat this communist. Okay.
I agree.
And Adams can. I don't know if Andrew Cuomo can, to be honest. New York, people in New York City, blue collar people, he stabbed them in the back a million times too. Eric Adams, look, we would have no choice if we were New York City residents, Joe Rossinello. We would have no choice but to vote for him, okay? Because Republicans aren't going to win. I don't think Curtis Lee was going to win.
No
Curtis Lee was got to get some concessions from Eric Adams. Andrew Cuomo's just got to bow out gracefully as that animal can, because he's an animal. I'm sorry. I don't like him even a little bit. And they got to throw their weight behind Eric Adams. And then he's got to go out there and he's got to run against this guy and beat him. And he will, because the unions are going to back him. I
would agree with that.
At least the cops and the firemen, they're going to get behind him. I don't know about the teachers, because the teachers are so radicalized. Okay. So we'll see what happens. But the larger point is, we don't need America's party. We already have it. It's MAGA. MAGA, the sit down that you and I have been calling for with MAGA, all right, has to occur. And the idolatry, yes, I know a lot of people out there I'm not going to like when I say this. This idolatry of Donald Trump has to end. And we're going to get into it a little bit. We're in the next clip, where you're going to see why, in my view, Donald Trump's star has fallen dramatically. Okay. But Elon's on the right path, but Elon's got to direct his focus. If he believes in MAGA, he should stick with MAGA. He should become a force within MAGA and start to move people by going out there. If this is what he wants to do, there's a lot of people saying he should just focus on Tesla. But whether it's Elon Musk or another influential voice that agrees with bringing power back to the people, then he's got to focus on the people who already identify as MAGA and start moving them away from Donald Trump and start moving them towards in the area of ideas. We have to be idea people, and then we have to be people of courage that are willing to implement these ideas. But that requires, Joe Resinello, that requires that your friends who have made mistakes in life, or your friends who are basically quasi swamp creatures when they get in office, you're your friend when they're running, and then they're swamp creatures when they're in office, or they're on the Epstein list, okay? Your friends are just going to have to be held accountable. And you can't worry about what happens to them because, look, if you're on the Epstein list and you did something really bad, that's on you, dude. But I'm not paying the freight for you. Let's watch this.
There was outrage at every step. So they're not stupid. But
how can you say that thousands of children were raped, but I'm not going to find out who raped them?
Yeah.
How can you say that?
I agree completely.
They said that. By the way, when Pam Bondi went on television and said, I have a videotape of kids getting abused, I followed this case closely, and I know a lot of the people involved, as I've told you.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I didn't know that. Really? Thousands of children got raped?
Yeah.
Who raped them? Where are the rapists? Like, why aren't they in jail? What? This is the Department of Justice.
Yes.
That is so crazy. This is honestly one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And I just think it's very dangerous to play around with this stuff. Like, very dangerous.
Well,
I don't want a revolution, but if you wanted a revolution, this is how you would act.
Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for an American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night stuff?
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
If you want, Joe, if you want a telltale sign, if you want a moment where I'm going to speak for myself, if Trump was eligible to run again, if they played that clip over and over on TV and it stuck in my head, I'm not voting for him. I'm staying home. You want to know why? Because now he's a liar. Now he's deflecting. Now because all the crap is coming out and people like us want to say, wait a minute. He's going, well, you're still talking about Epstein? Yeah, Donald, because you're the one who ran on it. You ran on it. You said you were gonna nominate Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Bongino's in there. You ran on releasing these files, and now you're gonna get mad at the reporter because he's holding you to your word. You're gonna say all of a sudden you've been talking about him for years, Donald. You were talking about him 6 months ago when you were on the campaign trail. This is part of why we voted for you. This is part of the swamp. We're gonna play Bannon in a little bit, but he makes this point. This is part of the swamp. This whole Epstein debacle is part of the swamp. Now, let me say this, and I'm going to hand it over to you. I don't think Donald Trump is implicated because let me tell you something. The Democrats have had these files for the longest time. And if Trump's name was on there, believe me when I tell you, they would have used it. So I don't think it's Trump. I think it goes back to what you always say. I think there's big donors on that list. I think there's recognizable names who give a lot of money, okay? And they're basically saying, you do this to me, you're not getting anything anymore. And I think it's a lot of them and a lot of others that he doesn't want to embarrass because they're either donors or friends or both. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is lying through his teeth on this issue. Joe, you with me?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Basically, I'm going to try to stay away from the conspiracy. I'm just going to try to get like bare bones facts and bare bones reaction. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein was a teacher who wound up very smart, very mathematical, who basically became a tax accountant. He worked for one of the wealthiest people in the world. I think the gentleman's named Friedman, Lex Friedman, worth like $9 billion. All of a sudden, Friedman gives him access to immense amounts of money. Now, I know people who are tax people. They make a good living. They don't live in the biggest property in Manhattan. A tax guy who works at Bear Stearns does not live there. Jeffrey Bezos might live there. Elon Musk may live there. Not a guy who does taxes well. So there are questions around how this man has this much money. That's not conspiracy. That is a logical and a valid question. How do you have that much money? Okay. A judge in Florida, made this statement. Jeffrey Epstein, in the history of America, is the most prolific pedophile ever. A judge said that in Florida. He's not the only one that were on these planes, who were on this island, and frankly committing this type of criminal activity. And this is not like a mild crime. This is a disgusting crime. They're taking advantage of underage women. In some cases, they're trafficking them. So, to Tucker Carlson's point, which he just made, how aren't people being prosecuted and why aren't people being in jail, going to jail? Now, that's not conspiratorial. I'm not going to get into the Mossad thing. I'm not going to say, I don't know. And frankly, I'm not even going to get into the fact that he died in a questionable manner. And he did die in a questionable manner. He was in a secure prison. The cameras didn't work and the guards didn't catch it. I'm not even going to go there because that is questionable. I'm talking bare bones and I'm just talking reaction, looking at the minimum amount of facts. The man was involved in large amounts of money, and frankly, I don't know how he got access to it. The man committed horrendous crimes with others, and no one went to jail. And to say, why are you still talking about this, is an insult to people. Because what that says to me, again, staying away from conspiracy, there are two sets of rules in this country. There is a set of rules for regular people, and there are a set of rules for powerful people. And that should disturb you. That should disturb you. It doesn't matter what political stripe you are. I think we all knew that anyway, but this makes it very evident. There are two sets of rules. That's why we're asking that question, Donald. Now, as far as why they're not putting the list out, because Pam Bondi said, and I heard it out of her own mouth, I have the list on my desk. And now she says she doesn't have it or she's not going to do it. And I agree with you. It's a lie. Why? I could speculate. It will absolutely devastate powerful people. Devastate them.
Across the spectrum.
This is not even, Joe, like, you know, I got caught doing something, I'm cheating on my taxes, or like, this is a crime. You have sex with a 15-year-old girl and you're a 53-year-old man, you go to jail. You go to jail, especially if it's on tape, and especially if you're like a powerful person. You're finished. It's over. You're going to jail. The party ends. And here's the thing. To ruffle that many feathers may not be practical. To your point, it could involve donor money. But here's another thing. That's why I voted for you, Donald, because that is a tool to take down the establishment. That's why I voted for you. I am interested in overturning the tables, to borrow a biblical phrase. And that is a tool to do it. If you're not willing to do that, You're reneging on a campaign promise at the minimum, but you're also proving to me that you're not willing to go that far. You're not going to go to the mattresses. That's why I voted for you. That's why many people voted for you. Last comment, Joe Pasillo. This hurts Donald Trump. This was a promise, and many people are disgusted. I have seen clips across X. Many people are saying flat out, MAGA is dead. MAGA is dead. And this could very well have been the nail on that coffin.
Well, let me tell you something. There's two major things that lead me to believe that I don't think MAGA is dead, because I think the ethos is out there now. Okay. We just need somebody to fill the vacuum. Donald Trump is the head of MAGA. Those days are over. And the two reasons why are this and the big, beautiful bill. Those two reasons. There's others. Those two are the main reasons. He passed a bill that's just rhino all over it. Establishment all over it. And he's not fulfilling this promise. Even if you wanted to be Machiavellian about it, Joe, he couldn't sit back, assuming his name's, let's say he's not implicated in any wrongdoing. He couldn't turn around and look at that list and now I'm going to get everything I want. Now I'm going to get everything I want. All the senators out there, all the congressmen, all right? Call them all in a room. Say, fellas, here's the list. Okay? You're all on it. So guess what? My big, beautiful bill is everything that I promised. He didn't even do that. Even if he had an inclination to do that, which that's what that's what I would have done. Like I said, if I wanted to get Machiavellian over it, I would have grabbed Lindsey Graham and all these guys, and I would have told them, you're voting for the way I want you to vote, or else all your friends, they're all going down the river. Every single one of them, all right? Because I'm going to release this list. He didn't even do that. We get nothing from the bill, and we get nothing of this promise that he made to expose all the people that were on that list. Now, let's get Bannon's take, because to me, sorry, I'm a Bannon guy. I know many people don't like him. I'm a Bannon guy. I believe Steve Bannon is very sincere. I think he's very well informed, and I think he's very sincere. I might think
smart.
Doesn't mean he's smart. I might not agree with him on everything, okay? But when I want real information and analysis, Bannon's pretty much the top of my.
It's not actually the biggest deal. The biggest deal is the size and scale and our ambitions as an empire. It's got to end. And that fight, folks, is about the deep state. And you can tie Epstein and Ukraine and what's happening, quite frankly, in the Middle East, right? And the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration of our nation, all tied back to the deep state. It's got to come down, and we only have a couple of years to do it. And we've got to be at general quarters. This is what we have to be a DEFCON 1 about. And if we blink or do some side deals, right, or, go after some marginal people, so you got a couple of trophies up on the wall, this must be dismantled. It must be taken apart brick by brick. It's not going to be easy. Look at the USAID. You think it's going to be easy to take this apart? No, it's not. He just had Sherman people saying, hey, you go ahead, play the fool, go do it. Go try it. Well, we have to do it. We have to do it. We don't have an option. The Epstein thing about whether they have it or not, it's a central front in the taking down of the deep state. It must be done. This Ukraine thing, the whole effort to get Bridge Colby and Pete Hegseth out of the Pentagon right now, because they're the ones cautioning that we're getting the deep state is sucking us in, just like what happened in the 12-day war.
Like, sometimes I feel I don't have to say anything. Just play Bannon and he's saying what exactly. This is all part of, this is not something that's supposed to appeal to our prurient interests, the Epstein list, because people want to get titillated or whatever the case might be. It's part and parcel of this whole dismantling of the thing that's holding us back as a nation and as a people. And Bannon's saying it right. So now I didn't know that until I heard the clip. I didn't know there's a push to push out Pete Hegseth. And if he's doing what he's supposed to, like Bannon was just saying, then even more I want him in there. But it's the same thing. Trump just sent weapons to the Ukraine. He bombed Iran. We didn't want to bomb Iran. I'm not listening to Netanyahu, because we've been listening to him in this country for the last 30 years telling us how Iran was developing a nuclear weapon and they were going to have it in 3 weeks. They're going to have it in 3 weeks. You've been saying that for 30 years, BB. You're the boy who cried wolf numerous times. And Trump goes and bombs Iran. He gives money to the Ukraine. He gives weapons to the Ukraine. And now he's not releasing the Epstein list. And what, we're just supposed to all just sit here and say, you know what? He's MAGA. He's Trump. You know, God spared him in Butler, Pennsylvania. God spared him, dude. And I believe that. But it ain't for the reasons that you say. There's another shoe that's gonna drop in all this, and it won't be Donald Trump's. It's gonna be God's shoe that's gonna drop in all this, and we're gonna find out why God spared Donald Trump. Now, I hope he gets his head out of his you know what, and he starts governing the way he said he was going to. But the fact is, Bannon's right, is that we're not getting any significant change. The only thing you could point to are the tariffs. Okay. And I do think that the tariffs are a good thing. And they brought in a substantial amount of money since they've been implemented. And there have been some other good things like defunding higher education, going against DEI. Okay, I will give Trump that credit. But Joe, that's not deep state stuff. What we're talking about tonight, that's deep state stuff. And that stuff's got to come to an end.
The reason why I like that clip is Bannon identifies the true enemy. The true enemy is the unelected bureaucrats that are working against regular people's interests. And they are, particularly when it comes to the military-industrial complex and corporatism, which basically fuels our politicians on both the right and the left in the Congress and Senate. They absolutely have usurped the power of the people. And that is a problem. That is a problem. When people say the deep state doesn't exist, you're not paying attention, because we just had a president who, frankly, was cognitively out of it. And frankly, someone was running the country. And I got news for you. It was not him. Unelected bureaucrats were running America a large percentage of the 4 years that Joe Biden was in that office. Any person who thinks otherwise, if you ask me, you're not paying attention, or frankly, you're just lost in your own political identity. Joe Biden probably did not make it up past 8 p.m. for at least 2 of the 4 years of his presidency. If you think that Joe Biden was working a 12 to 16-hour day, you're crazy. He could barely walk across the stage. And that means unelected bureaucrats were pulling the strings of power in this nation. It exists. Bannon calls out the enemy. And the Epstein list could have been a tool to, frankly, tear that down. And Trump didn't pull that string.
Yes.
I don't know why he didn't. Maybe, and most probably, there's a lot more to it than I know, that you know. Who knows? However, what Bannon did right there is he called out the deep state, because it's real. Unelected bureaucrats who are moving power in America. And if we don't do it now, it's not going to happen. Which means, frankly, you're going to sit in your own misery, as in you, Mr. America, you, Mrs. America. Our middle class has been destroyed. It's only getting worse. Our cities are falling apart. And frankly, somebody's getting rich, and it's not you.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And not for nothing, Joe. I mean, I know a lot of people that watch us here at the front line with Joe and Joe up there in Canada. Okay, here.
Hey, Mark Carney is exactly what the world needs right now. Don't you agree? Calm, composed, cooperative. Bear with me. He brings people together. He works with our allies. He listens to the experts. He trusts the science. He speaks with dignity and never causes waves. He supports our global partners, defends shared values, respects the international order, stays close to the institutions that keep us safe. The media loves him, the banks trust him, the UN applauds him, and the EU calls him an example of stability in a time of chaos. He doesn't scare investors. He doesn't ruffle feathers. He doesn't disrupt anything. And that, we're told, is what real leadership looks like. Do you agree? Well, here's my issue. Everything I just said is word for word the praise that they give to any leader who does what they're told. Leaders who don't challenge the system. Leaders who hand over their country one small decision at a time. Leaders who trade sovereignty for applause. Now let's talk about President Trump. They say he's dangerous. They say he's a threat. They say he breaks the norms. They also say he doesn't act presidential. But maybe it's not because he's unfit. Maybe it's because he won't follow the script. He doesn't ask permission. He doesn't bow to unelected power. He sure as heck doesn't sell out his people for a seat at someone else's table. And that's why they fear him. So if you believed everything that I said at the beginning of this, if it sounded familiar, well, good, because that's how they describe every obedient leader that the system owns and protects. Just remember that. But the ones they smear, the ones they censor, the ones they try to ban, those are the ones that you should be paying attention to, because it's never about style. It's about control. And the ones they
About control. Mark Carney, and that's who he's talking about in that video. That's the way they describe Mark Carney. I mean, again, this is just rip this out of the playbook of the New World Order. He gets along with everybody in the world. He respects international law. He respects the global partnership. I'm not interested in a global partnership. And again, this is my frustration with Donald Trump, is that Trump was supposed to represent the antithesis of this. Not for nothing, if I'm Trump's enemy right now, I'm going to keep quiet a little bit. I'm not going to attack Trump too much, because he's doing what I want him to do. Bannon wants a dismantling of the deep state. Donald Trump is not dismantling anything. Why? Because you're getting rid of DEI? That's not dismantling the deep state. Really? Is that what you consider? So I'd be shutting up right now. I'd actually start heaping some praise on Donald Trump if I was his enemy. Because he's doing what they want him to do. And what he was just describing in that clip, that's the way you get, let's say, that's the way people like Mark Carney are spoken about, because he's calm, he's composed, he gets along with our allies, he respects global partnerships and international law. I wouldn't give two you-know-whats for international partnerships. Marco Rubio actually is the only one, when he got up in front of the Congress, he said, we're not doing anything that's not in the United States' interest. He said all that USA, he was talking about USAID. All that USAID money, that was money being spent. And if we'll spend money, we'll give foreign aid, but it will come with strings attached, is really what he was saying, because it's going to be in our interest to do so. All right. Guys like Mark Carney, they sell out their countries. Okay. That's what the Uniparty in America has been doing for the last, let's say, since the end of World War II. They sell us out. They come across as being calm and composed and collected. I'm starting to doubt whether Ronald Reagan was so much of a game changer either. I think the Soviet Union would have imploded on itself, because we know that the communist system, it can't sustain itself. At some point, it's gonna come crashing down. But that's a different subject for another day. But that guy's exactly right. And Mark Carney, he represents that. And Trump, unfortunately, in the last few weeks, Joe, he represents that too.
Agreed. And I think that was a great analysis. Ultimately, the president works for the people. They they shouldn't work for special interests. They especially shouldn't work for foreign interests. And that is what we have. Frankly, it should disgust people. And frankly, this is what we all need to fight against. You see, the presidency in many ways, and it hasn't changed for decades, is fought in the middle of the football field. They throw you a few bones. Whoever wins, like you mentioned, DEI, and say if a Democrat wins, it goes right back. They sign a few executive orders, but certain things never change. You see, that's why people elected Donald Trump, to have those certain things to change. I am not interested in my leadership being controlled by anyone except the vote of the people. And too many people don't understand the system, how it actually works, how the sausage is made. And that man is 100% correct. I'm not interested in someone playing it safe. I am interested in shaking the tree. Know why? Because our country is a mess. It's a mess. Go into any big city in America and tell me it's not a mess. Talk to people in the middle of the country. Look at how the middle class has been destroyed. Look and see how the cost of college has completely gone out of reach for regular people. Look and see how college kids coming out of school are not getting the proper jobs. Look and see how people aren't getting married and having children. These are the basic consequences, and frankly, these are the realities of a country that is in deep decline.
Yeah.
Deep decline. And
Well, people,
whatever,
Joe, have their. Go ahead. Go ahead.
but people don't pay attention to that. They get lost in their own stupid little minutia. And frankly, they're missing the bigger picture. And Elon Musk has opined on this to a degree, and he's the richest man in the world. You're not even close, as in the proverbial whoever's listening to this. He's not even close to having the wealth that he has. But what he basically is saying is, if the country falls apart, even he cannot do what he wants to do. How is that going to affect you? Better put, how is it going to affect your children, your grandchildren? Are you concerned? I am. And this is what I'm talking about. People miss the forest. They're missing it. They're lost in their own little echo chamber, and they're missing it. And frankly, it's going to cost you, and it already has.
No, listen, it's costing us a lot. We can't get out of our own way. We, as middle class people, upper middle class people, working people, we can't even talk about abolishing the IRS because we have so much debt. They got us so locked in, they got us so controlled. And when the whole thing comes down, all the people that are going to be complaining, they're going to go to the people that they voted for, and the people that they voted for are going to say, well, blame Trump, or blame this, or blame that, blame the patriarchy, blame racism, blame sexism, blame homophobia, blame all these different things. That's all they're going to do. And the idiots that voted for them are going to say, you know what, you're right. In the meantime, you're looking at the person in the face who screwed you and your kids and your grandkids and screwed this whole country. This is why this is part of the deep state. If people understood exactly what the deep state does, it never sleeps. It's like in Terminator. Remember in Terminator when the main character, what was his name, Reese, he says to her, he says, this thing will not stop. It will never stop until you're dead. Why do people think that that's sci-fi? Why do people think that the most evil people in the world wouldn't go to those lengths for their own comfort, for their own power, for their own security, for their kids and their grandkids and their very close friends, and everybody else could go to hell as far as they're concerned? They don't care. Why don't people see that? The deep state it's all out. You think that when you look at those school boards, let me go off on a little bit of a tangent, Joe. When you look at those school boards that allow a girl to be raped by a boy in a bathroom, and the father went there and the father pointed it out and says, you stood by and you didn't even let me know that my daughter was raped by a boy pretending to be a girl, who goes to the girls' room, and they all say nothing, and they're also sitting in their seats. You don't think that that's part of the deep state? Everything is the deep state. Every one of those people that's sitting on that school board are bought and paid for. Because on the one hand, Joe, they do these things to take our money from us. And on the other part, it's controlling what your kids learn. So that whatever you're teaching them as a good Catholic parent in your home, they're going to undermine when you send your kids out into the school system. They do it all. They have Hollywood in their pockets. Jeffrey Epstein is just a symptom of this. He's just one of the people they had in their pocket. Everybody in Hollywood everybody knows that the CIA has operations in Hollywood, that they control the message that gets sent out to the wider culture. They control the publishing industry. They control the advertising industry. They know what they're doing. They control the internet. There's not a thing that goes on that's not controlled. Unfortunately, we as Catholics have to understand they've infiltrated the Catholic Church so that Catholic bishops and cardinals go along with them. They've done this. They do it all across the board, and they achieve everything they want. And as Bannon said, this has to be dismantled. You know what it's going to take? It's going to take a revolution. And unfortunately, see, the thing is, it could never be a bloody revolution because we'd get crushed. They have all the weapons, as you said a million times. They'll drop a bomb on you. That's all. They'll get you all in one spot and they'll just drop a bomb on you. They could take out an entire city. They'll kill everybody as long as they kill you. They don't care. All right. It's got to be a real groundswell from the bottom. And again, if people say it's impossible, I know I'm a little long-winded, Joe, but hear me for a second. I'm going to throw it over to you. Look at Poland. If you really want an example of how this country could change, how you could dismantle a lot of this stuff, look at what they did in Poland against arguably the most powerful country to ever have existed, the Soviet Union, okay? But a groundswell of workers assisted by the Pope, okay, took down the Soviet Union. So it can happen, but you have to have a will to do it. And why do we have to wait until the boot is on our face before we start saying, a boot is on my face? We need to start now. I know that was long-winded, Joe. I'm going to throw it over to you.
Well, you could look at Poland. You could look at El Salvador. Things were really bad. They're not that bad yet. They're bad, but they're not that bad. For El Salvador recently had 85% approval for the president, who basically arrested 70,000 people. Of course, the mainstream media calls him a fascist. I say he's a hero because the people who he arrested were gang members who were killing regular people and holding their lives hostage. I have no problem with that. However, it would take a lot of pain. It would take a crisis. I don't know what type of crisis that could be. It could be financial. It could be some type of war. Who knows? But sadly, there's not enough people who are awake. I do think people are becoming politically aware. However, what we're going to see before something like that happens is we're going to see the reactions going from left to right radically. What we're seeing in New York right now. And then, frankly, you may get a very far right governor, a very far right. For instance, California. We have a person in the chat right now, Tiffany. She's from California. California is at that breaking point. You can get, I'll just make it up, a Mexican American nationalist that basically gets a groundswell of the population and comes in and just kicks everyone directly in the ass. That could happen. A friggin' ass kicker, because people have had enough. The state's been burned to the ground. Crime is off the hook. You have cultural communism in every single hall and every single institution of power in the state. And people could just say, enough is enough. There are no longer right or left as far as politics go. We're going to come in and kick their ass. And that could happen. But look what it took. For that to happen, things would have to get much worse, because frankly, I still think too many people are complacent. They still have their SUV in their driveway. They still have food in their refrigerator. They still go on vacation. And frankly, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Which is very sad.
Right. It is. And hopefully it comes to an end. We're coming up on the hour, so we're gonna bring it to a close. This is an important conversation. We hope you'll spread us. Stick around after we check out. We're going to send you out with a clip, a very funny one, but a very true clip. But we want to thank you all out there for joining us at the front line with Joe and Joe. You always help us out. Please continue to do so. Wherever you're watching the video, hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit a share, do all that fun stuff. We will be going on, as far as I can tell, this Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern time at our normal time. And we want to thank everybody who's always been supporting us. Thanks everybody in the chat room. Antonella and the rest of you guys, you're awesome. So we want to thank you once again, and we'll see you next week. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
So amazing to watch a child grow up in front of your eyes, and you try to do everything you can for your children. It's like, I'm going to college, Dad. I'm going to go to Florida. I got a university. And I dropped her off, and I saw her whole life go in front of me. I sobbed like a baby. My wife's like, oh, please, I can't wait to get the other ones out of the house. We can start to live again. Trust me, it's going to be good. You still got your Batman outfit? Yeah. You got Wonder Woman? All right. And I couldn't wait to hear from my kids. She came back 6 weeks later from college. Never forget it. She walked right through and she was going, sexist, racist, racist, sexist, sexist, racist, racist, gender, 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 gender. Can't say that. Can't say. You can't say that. LGBTQ2, LGBTQ2, LGBTQ. Rights. Gay rights, people rights, human rights, sexist, racist. Can't say that. You can't say that. No, it's not. That's not what it means. Yes, you can. Racist, sexist. Gender. All I said was good morning.